women's basketball struggles at home, softball hosts the Texas Invitational, and baseball starts their season undefeated. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box. I'm your host, Bailey Wald, joined by Madison Hager. We have a packed show for you tonight, so let's start off with women's basketball. The Longhorns took on the Kansas State Wildcats at home on Saturday. Let's head down to the Frank Irwin Center for the highlights. We'll start off in the second half. Texas is down 21 in the third quarter. Jada Underwood gets a steal and passes it to Shug Sutton. She puts it up for a shot, and she is good. Now Kansas State's Angela Harris dribbles the ball down the court, takes it across, and puts it up for a reverse layup, and it goes in. Shug Sutton again taking the ball into the paint, puts it up for a layup, but she misses it, and Charlie Collier is there to put it back up. Angela Harris will get the ball once again, and from the corner she hits that three. Now we're going to move into the fourth quarter. Texas is up 47-45. LaShawn Higgs with the rebound takes it all the way down, passes to Isabel Palmer, who passes to Jada Underwood, and back to LaShawn Higgs. She puts it up for a layup. Shug Sutton will have the ball once again, passes it to Joyner Holmes, puts up a jumper, and it goes in. Karen Aston and the bench all fired up, and now Kansas State with the ball once again, but Charlie Collier blocks a shot, and Angela Harris takes it, puts up her last three of the game with about a minute and a half left. Kansas State wins 60-54. Margaret Warwick was at the drum and has more for us on this game.
A close game at the Frank Irwin Center against Kansas State as the teams traded buckets throughout and stayed physical under the basket. K-State set the pace for the game, causing the Longhorns to rush and ultimately miss some critical shots.
We didn't run it through, like it was just one dribble pull-ups, or like we just didn't run the play through, or I just feel like they just sped us up and we didn't play at our pace that we normally do.
Senior forward Joyner Holmes had some good looks throughout the game, but spoke to how the team intends to get better at finishing in future matches.
One of the biggest problems for me tonight was I think I just should have done better on the offensive boards. That probably would have helped us a lot. But I mean, just going back and telling them just take it one game at a time. We can't soak on this one. We still got more season left to go.
Texas started the third with the lead and continued to gain momentum on defense, making some key stops, but were unable to convert on offense, allowing K-State to close the gap and eventually end up on top.
I really thought the game got away from us a little bit when we were in, like, I don't want to say control because I don't know that anybody was ever in control of the game, but I thought we had really settled in, and we talked in a timeout about getting some consecutive stops, and we did that, and we just didn't convert.
Texas could not keep Kansas from gaining, allowing 12 points at the end of the third. Kansas shot almost 38% from the field and held Texas to 1 of 15 from the three, while they shot 6 of 18, pulling the win. From the Frank Irwin Center, I'm Margaret Wyrick, TSTV.
We now welcome in our women's basketball analyst, Thomas Fitch. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Texas may have lost against Kansas State on Saturday, but we're winning going into the fourth quarter. What happened down the stretch?
Well, there's a couple key things that happened. The first one, there was a lack of ball movement when you just have an ISO ball and they're not getting the ball to the paint and then spreading it back out. That hurt. The Horns really struggled to penetrate and, again, dribble in, kick out, get the open looks for threes. They weren't being able to do that. They struggled on the defensive end, giving up too many baskets. They also had a chance to put away Kansas State in the third, but they didn't. That allows Kansas State to come back in, and obviously last 6 minutes, Texas doesn't score a point. It's going to be hard to win any basketball game, regardless of the lead you have when you don't score in the last 6 minutes. You also have the struggle with Joyner Holmes trying to do a little too much by herself. Again, it goes back to the ball, need to move the ball around, and the team just didn't quite do that.
And switching over to coaching, with the team going 15-10 so far this season, and with this being Karen Aston's 8th season with Texas, where does her job security lie?
So there's two things you have to look at when Texas wants to decide what do they do after the season. Obviously, her contract's up, so that puts a little more at stake for Aston. She has a proven resume. You look at her career stats, 6 tourney appearances in 7 years in Texas, 4 Sweet 16, 1 Elite 8. But if they don't make the tournament this year, they've had some disappointments despite having more talent than the results have shown. But the other question is who else? Who else are they going to get? You're not going to get a Kim Mulkey, a Gino Auriemma. So you're not getting a top-level quality coach. So are you going to get anyone better than Aston? That's the question that Chris Del Conte is going to have to answer himself. If they can find someone maybe younger, an up-and-comer that they see possibly. But it all comes down to, does the team make the tournament? If they make the tournament, maybe win a game or two, I think there's no way that Aston's fired. But if they lose out some of their last couple games, they don't make the tournament, I have a hard time imagining that Karen Aston's going to finish the season as a Longhorn.
And with the end of the season coming soon, like you were mentioning, with 4 games remaining in Big 12 play, how does the team finish?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, still a chance for the tournament with 4 games left. The team has 16 wins. Generally, you think 18 to 22 wins kind of gets you on the bubble and gets you in. So with the Baylor game, so of the 4 games left, Baylor game basically mark it as a loss. As much as you want to say that Texas has a chance, they've struggled really most of Aston's tenure here at Texas. So mark that as a loss. But number 25, TCU, that's a big game. That would be a quality win to go alongside quality wins of number 4, Stanford. They had that back in December, and Tennessee. So the key is going 3-1 over this stretch, beating TCU, getting revenge for the loss at the beginning of conference play. If they can do that, get to 19 wins, maybe get a win or 2 in the Big 12 tournament, I think they have a good chance of making the NCAA tournament.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Thomas. And when we come back, we'll discuss Texas softball as their season gets into the swing of things. Stick around.
Welcome back. The Texas softball team was off to a hot 14-0 start this season after their first few tournaments. This weekend, they hosted the Texas Invitational, where they faced Lipscomb, North Dakota State, Duke, and Weber State. Daniel Shee has more on how this tournament went for Mike White's team.
The number 4 Texas softball faces the Duke Blue Devils as the Horns look to continue their 14-game win streak. However, the Texas offense couldn't overcome Penton St. George and the Blue Devils defense and allowed Duke to steal one on the road.
I don't think that she dominated us. It may look like it on the scoreboard that she dominated us. She's a good pitcher, don't get me wrong. We were hitting the ball really hard. It's not like we were striking out. She maybe had 1 or 2 strikeouts all game. We weren't striking out.
We call Adam balls. You hit it right at them, and there's not much you can do. You just get up there and try and hit the ball hard, and we did, and unfortunately we found a lot of gloves.
But Texas wasn't perfect on defense either. A couple of miscues allowed Duke to score the only run of the game.
We get into tight ball games, and we made a mental error there, kind of not checking the runner going 2 to 3 and 3 to 1 on the strikeout. That allowed that runner to get to 3 and then a miss hit. I mean, that's how it all happened. But just one little thing like that. They got one hard hit ball or a couple of hard hit balls and just a couple of things like that, and you're down.
Following this weekend, Texas will face 4 top 10 teams next week, and Coach White mentions how, even though we're still early in the season, how the team is building towards postseason play.
I think it's about how we play. We may go 0-4, 0-5, but as long as we're learning something from it, that prepares us for the postseason. Because, I'm pretty sure we'll make the postseason, but how deep we go, I don't know. And that's why you play these tough games and tough situations to prepare yourself for that.
No team has gone past 29-0 in a season. You play a lot more than 29 games in a season. So you win and you lose. We lost, but we'll be better tomorrow.
From the Red and Charlie McCombs field, this is Daniel Shee, TSTV Sports.
After the loss to Duke, Texas came back to win their final game of the tournament against Weber State. We now welcome in our softball analyst, Clark Dalton. Thanks for coming on tonight. Texas softball is on fire with a 15-1 start, but there has been some close games. How do these close games affect the team?
Overall, I think it has a positive effect on the team because now they have increased confidence in the clutch, which is a part of the makings of a great team. Additionally, now there's an awareness of some angles you can carve out to reach the pinnacle you're aiming for. 3 out of the last 5 games have been surprising since they were all decided by 1 run and against unranked opponents, North Texas, Lipscomb, and Duke. All three of these teams have flown under the radar, though. Duke and North Texas are both 12-2 and receiving top 25 votes. Lipscomb won 42 games last season. So these games are really outliers, and one thing that's an indicator of that is you'll notice Texas didn't convert some of the opportunities they normally do. They left 8 runners on against North Texas, and there was only 1 run scored in the entire game against Duke. It was very slow-paced, and it was in the 4th inning. So these are areas that are easy to fix. There's no serious cause for concern. It's a team that is loaded with talent. They've scored 146 runs. The recent games sharpen them as they get ready for the tougher portion of their schedule.
And with that, pitcher Miranda Ellis, coming from Oregon with Mike White last season, has definitely established her dominance here at Texas. How important is she to this team?
Let's use an analogy here. If this Texas team was a car, Miranda Ellis would be the engine. Now, I know that sounds a bit hyperbolic, but by the time she's done, she's going to be hallowed as one of the best players to ever wear the burnt orange. Coming into the season, I didn't think she could get any better, but she's taken her game into the stratosphere. Last year, her ERA was 1.81. This year, it's 0.53. Opponents simply can't make contact with the ball when she's on the mound. And not only is she a great pitcher now, but she's stepped up her game in the offensive phase of the game as well. Her batting average has gone from 315 to 464. And on top of that, she can back up those numbers with victories. She's 7-1 as a starter. This type of improvement for a player that was already at a high caliber is just utterly remarkable. She's a huge reason for this program's resurgence, why they've been ranked in the top 5 for the first time since 2013, and she'll definitely be vying for some awards at the end of the season.
Definitely. And with Texas this week taking on Louisiana at home and UCLA away, how do you see Texas competing in this upcoming schedule?
I think this is the most important week of the season thus far because you're playing the creme de la creme. You truly have to bring your A game against 2 top 10 opponents. Louisiana and Lafayette has everything to gain from this matchup since they're a smaller program who's trying to earn the respect of bigger national powerhouses and cement themselves as an up-and-comer. Then to top that off, you have to face the #1 team in the country and defending national champion UCLA Bruins, who are at full strength with the backing of their home crowd. This will indicate if Texas is ready to climb the mountaintop and join the major championship contenders, marking a chance to set the bar even higher this season if you pull off the upset. I expect both of these games to be a fight to the finish. Therefore, it will be a huge challenge. Despite that, I think both games will bode well for the Horns and bolster their resume nationally.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Clark. And when we come back, we will check out how Texas baseball has started the 2020 season. Good evening and welcome back in the College Press Box. Texas baseball is off to an impressive start, going 8-0 to begin the season. On Tuesday, the Longhorns took on the UTSA Roadrunners at the Dish, and Jaxie Pigeon has more on the game.
This past Tuesday, the Texas Longhorns took on the UTSA Roadrunners in Austin. On this rainy and cold day, the Dish still managed to have a crowd of over 4,000. The Longhorns got off to a slow start against UTSA's pitcher Pepper Jones, who pitched 3 hitless innings. In the 4th frame, Duke Ellis had a solid bunt to get things rolling for the Horns. UTSA's 2-0 lead was quickly blown with Texas's 5-run 4th inning.
It's great because we've been ahead in the first 3 games. Tonight, like I said, we're down 2-0.
Sophomore Cole Quintanilla was the starting pitcher for the Longhorns. This was his first springtime start at Texas, and he threw 71 pitches and had 5 strikeouts.
I thought after the first couple of hitters, he really got into the flow of the game. And that's something that he has to learn if he's coming out of the pen. And a lot of our guys is that, give it your best with aggressive mentality on the first pitch. And if you run out of gas, we'll go from there.
In his second career start, freshman Silas Ardwin went 2 for 4 at the plate with 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored.
He's got a good swing. He's got a very good approach. He was very confident at Rice. He had 3 walks in his first start. And that's very unusual for a freshman because, everything speeds up. And you could really tell that the game was really slow for him. It's a great sign. And he's doing a wonderful job behind the plate, too. But it's fun. It's fun to watch their energy, to watch them grow every single day.
The Longhorns had a dominant pitching performance in the latter half of the game, led by Pete Hansen. This secured their first home win of the season. Hansen finished this game in style, striking out UTSA's Shane Serdashny. He pitched the last 3 innings and had 4 strikeouts to record his first career save. With a true team effort and a big help from the freshman, the Longhorns were able to secure the 6-2 win over their Roadrunners. From the dish, I'm Jaxie Pigeon, TSTV Sports.
This weekend, Texas hosted Boise State in their first home series of the season. In Game 1, the Longhorns shut out Boise State in a 7-0 game. On Saturday, Ty Madden led the team in a 2-1 victory, and on Sunday, Cam Williams hit a 10th inning walk-off home run to secure the 7-5 win and series sweep for the Horns. We now welcome in our baseball analyst, Henry Corwin. Thanks so much for joining us today. As we've been saying, Texas is off to an 8-0 start. But is that because they're a great team, or they're just facing really easy-to-beat teams?
Well, Bailey, I would say obviously it's a little bit of both, but I think it's mostly just poor competition. Now, anytime you can go on an 8-game winning streak in baseball, it's impressive because it means you are relatively mistake-free for an extended period of time. Now, the 4 teams that Texas has beaten this year have combined an 8-7 record against teams other than Texas. When you add their games against Texas, it's 8-15, which isn't too impressive. 3 of Texas's wins have come against Rice, who has still not won a game all year, and Texas has yet to play a team in the top 25 preseason rankings, so there's still a lot to be determined when this Texas team actually plays top-notch competition. But what's good to see is that Texas so far has improved on the areas that killed them last season. They had an ERA of 4.37 last year. They've been so much better at the start of this season, which we'll get to later on, and their slugging percentage is a bit up so far this season compared to last, which means they're hitting for more bases, getting guys in scoring position. So I would say we need to see Texas up against some better teams to make a thorough judgment, but they can't do any better than they've done so far, having gone undefeated through 8 games.
So like you said, they've been giving it their all this entire season. So let's move over to the pitching. Bryce Elder, Ty Madden, and Coy Cobb are some of the starters right now. So how successful can this pitching stay, and what can these boys do to keep it going for the team?
Well, the Longhorns pitching has certainly been looking stellar, to say the least. They have an ERA of 1.85 through 8 games, a whip under 1, and an opposing average of just 190. Bryce Elder has given up just 2 earned runs over 13 innings pitched. Ty Madden, just 1 run over 15 innings, and Coy Cobb, 3 runs over 9 in the 3rd innings pitched. So to answer the question directly, if this can continue, I don't believe the team's ERA is going to look the way it is now for the whole year, because Texas will eventually play better competition. But the 3 guys I mentioned are all sophomores or juniors, so they have either a year or 2 of college baseball under their belt, and that experience will certainly help them moving forward, and getting off to a good start, which can build confidence, can perhaps lead them into a successful year.
So those guys that you said do have some experience, but let's move over to the seniors, Duke Ellis and Austin Todd. How do you think that they can help lead this team, specifically with their batting, to help them set a straight shot to Omaha?
Well, they've certainly are off to the start they've envisioned. Ellis last year batted just .266, which is 9 extra base hits, but he started off this season batting an even .400, and he has 3 extra base hits on the year already through 8 games. Austin Todd, similar story, just a .256 batting average last year with 15 extra base hits and a slugging percentage of just .374, but he started off this season through 8 games batting .324 with a slugging percentage of .471. So to answer the question, I do believe they are ready to lead this team's lineup. Ellis is in his senior year, so he has all the experience he could have. He's seen some great highs and some great lows over his time here at Texas. And Austin Todd, same deal. He's also a senior. He's never hit for the best average since he's been in Austin. But I think the combination of experience and knowing it's now or never can definitely allow these 2 seniors to lead this team from the offensive end.
Thank you so much for joining us, Henry. When we come back, we'll take a look at men's basketball and how they competed over the weekend. Stick around.
Welcome back into College Press Box, and thanks again for tuning in this Monday. Let's check out what happened this week for the remainder of Texas athletics.
The men's basketball team had one of their best weeks all season as they faced TCU and Kansas State. In their home game against TCU on Wednesday, both Andrew Jones and Will Baker hit career highs of 21 and 20 points respectively. They led the Longhorns in a strong second half to defeat TCU 70-56. On Saturday, the Horns went to Kansas to face the Wildcats. Courtney Ramey posted a career high of 26 points and 5 steals. The Longhorns finished off the game with another victory of 70-59.
Yesterday, men's tennis swept both Nebraska and UTSA in a doubleheader. The Longhorns won the doubles point against Nebraska, and Yuyo Ito took the #1 in singles, and Christian Sigsgaard fell behind with #2 against UTSA. The Longhorns are now 9-2 this season and take on Stanford next.
The #3 women's tennis team lost to #12 Stanford this weekend at home. The 4-3 loss put the team at 8-2 so far this season. Bianca and Anna Turati each won their singles matches against ranked opponents, but lost in their doubles match 6-3. Fernanda Labrana also won her singles match against a ranked opponent. The team faces #15 Pepperdine this Friday in California.
This past week, men's golf won at the Prestige Tournament in California. Texas tied for third on the first day but clinched first place on the second and third day. In the individual results, senior Spencer Sussman took third place. The team competes in the Southern Highlands Collegiate next.
The #9 track team competed at the Alex Wilson Invitational this weekend. The women's distance medley relay team placed third at the meet with a time of 11:06:23. That time was the second fastest relay time in school history. They're also the second fastest team in the Big 12 and in the top 12 of the NCAA relay teams. This team's postseason will begin next weekend at the Big 12 Indoor Track and Field Championships in Ames, Iowa.
The spring 2020 soccer schedule has been released for Texas. The Longhorns open up the spring, taking on Monterey on March 6th at home. That will be the only home game, as the other 4 games are on the road. Texas will close out against Northwestern State on April 18th at 2 p.m.
This week in Longhorns sports, we have tomorrow softball facing Louisiana and baseball playing Sam Houston State. From Wednesday through Saturday, swimming and diving will compete at the Big 12 Championships. On Wednesday, women's basketball takes on TCU away at 6:30 p.m. And on Thursday, softball plays UCLA. Friday through Sunday, track and field will be competing at the Big 12 Indoor Championships, and softball will play Michigan, Washington, and Fresno State at the Judy Garman Classic. Baseball will take on #11 LSU at Minute Maid Park at 7 p.m. On Saturday, men's basketball will play #22 Texas Tech, and that game will be on ESPN. On Longhorn Network, you can catch women's basketball as they take on Oklahoma at 7 p.m. Baseball will stay at Minute Maid Park and play Arkansas at 7 p.m. and then Missouri on Sunday. To finish out the weekend, men's tennis plays #9 NC State.
And that wraps up our show for tonight. From all of us here at TSTV, thanks for sticking around, and be sure to tune into College Crossfire on Wednesday night for the best sports debate on the 40 acres. Good night.